Well, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everybody here in the UK and those of you joining in Ireland. My name's John Tracy, and for the next 45 to 50 minutes or so, I've got some pretty cool stuff to share with you. Now, the plan for today is exactly the same as always. I've got some questions that people have submitted in advance. We'll go through those. That gives those that are joining plenty of time to add any questions, comments, anything you want into the chat, and we'll pick those up when we get to the end. In the centre, I'm going to share with you some of the data that I've got for how my system's been performing over the last month and how much money we've raised for good causes. And it's been a pretty good month for both of those. So with that, I can see people starting to join the stream. Chris Hill, no, I didn't get your email. I don't know, to be honest, I haven't looked in my junk folder, so I will go and look in that afterwards, but if not, I will drop you a note and let you know. Okay, let me jump across to my slides here. And I want to start with some of your questions. Now, we just did a Q&A session just a couple of weeks ago, and my plan is I'll do one of these at the beginning of the month, we'll do a Q&A in the middle of the month, so every couple of weeks, if you've got questions, we can do them live. If you just want to hang out, then we can do that as well. Okay, let me get started with this. So this one came out of the blue this morning, and it actually set me back a little bit, because I thought somebody's thinking about an electric car, and their first thing they're not thinking about is the running costs. They're not worried about the running costs. They're not using that as the main motivation for getting an electric car. So other than running costs, what are the main advantages of owning an EV? Now, just to put it into perspective, we've owned EVs now for, well, pure battery electric vehicles for 12 and a half years. Before that, we had a couple of hybrids, but at least 12 years of one and sometimes two battery electric vehicles in our family. Today, we have a 10-year-old Nissan Leaf that is still on its original battery. For those that know about the way the Leaf battery indicates, there's little markers that show you as your battery degradation happens. Why on earth Nissan thought that was a good thing to put on the dashboard, I don't know, but we've lost one bar. Now, it's not a heavily used car. My wife uses it to travel, or did use it till recently, to travel about 10 miles a day to work and back. But it's more of a run around. And then we have my Tesla Model Y, which is a couple of years old. And again, not high mileage by any stretch of the imagination. But after owning EVs for 10 years, I think the question shouldn't be, what are the advantages of electric vehicles? It's, what are the advantages if you were to buy an internal combustion engine vehicle? What do you get that you don't get with an EV? And realistically, I can come up with 1.5 to 2 things. So range is obviously one. Now, I'm getting on a bit. I'm in my mid-50s, and I can tell you now that my electric car has a bigger range than my bladder. So if we're out driving, after a couple of hours, I need to stop to go to the toilet. And if I'm going to stop to go to the toilet, I might as well plug the car in, add another 100, 200 miles of range, and off we go again. Obviously, you can't do that with the Leaf. It only has a range of about 100 miles on a good day. But so obviously, that's the one main advantage that an internal combustion engine car is, that you fill it up with petrol or diesel, and depending on the vehicle, you might get anywhere between 300 and 500 miles on a tank. Or if you've got some enormous tank on your car, maybe even further. So that's one advantage. The second advantage is the refueling time. Now, even with the latest generation of super fast electric chargers, to put any meaningful range on the car, you're probably talking 15 to 30 minutes to put a few hundred miles on the car. And obviously 5 minutes at a petrol pump and you're done. Absolutely everything else, I would say the electric vehicles are superior. Now, there's going to be lots of people who love driving, who think things like manual gearboxes. And if that's your thing, then all credit to you. I was like that up until my 30s. I was like, I will never have an automatic gearbox. It takes the fun away from driving. And then the first time I ever drove, I was actually in the US. I drove with an automatic gearbox. I loved it. and I've never driven a manual, well, not deliberately. I've never chosen a manual gearbox since then. But everything about the driving experience of an electric vehicle, I think, is superior to the vast majority of internal combustion engine cars on the market. They're quieter, they're smoother, they're just every single thing about. They're easier to drive. I'm quite happy to drive 200-300 miles to go visit family. And when I get out of the car, I don't have a sore back. I don't feel like it's been a struggle to drive. I don't feel tired after driving. I think they just have every single box ticked with the exception of range and time to refuel. And I think range is going to be a solved problem. Well, by the time we get into the next stage of batteries, where we're starting to see 500-mile ranges, I think that argument is going to go away probably in the next 5 to 10 years. And as we start to see cars move to the 800-volt architecture, again, probably the next generation of cars, I know there are a few now on the 800-volt architectures, the ability to deliver much more energy to them more quickly will bring those recharging times down. Now, whether they bring them down to the kind of 5 minutes that it would take at a petrol pump, I don't know. But those are the real advantages of an electric vehicle. And I think a lot of people who have experienced them, especially, I love meeting people, because like I say, I've been doing this for 12 years, but I love meeting people that have just experienced an electric vehicle for the first time. And they are absolutely blown away by how quickly it responds just when you try to overtake something on the road, how quiet it is, how easy it is to drive. And again, the number of people I hear, people saying, I'm never going back to internal combustion engine after this. I love it. Okay. This one, I'm going to have to be careful what I say because my wife might watch this stream. So, what do you use all of your battery storage for? For those that are new, that don't really know what I'm talking about here, we have I would say for a 3-bedroom house, a relatively large solar system, about 9.6 kilowatts of panels connected to these 3 monsters. So there's 29.1 kilowatt hours of Solar Edge batteries there. There is another 7.2 kilowatts of EcoFlow batteries that are connected to a PowerStream inverter with the panels you see hooked on my fence there. And then there's all of these as well. And possibly more coming. So my standard admission, hi, my name's John and I've got a battery problem. The vast majority of those batteries are used quite heavily. Even the mobile power stations, on the days where, certainly throughout May, where we've had some stunning weather, I would put the mobile solar cells out in the garden. Nobody's in the garden during the day, so nobody's worried about me covering up as much space as I can with solar cells. So I unfill the mobile panels, I plug them into the batteries, and then I have a mechanism for discharging the portable batteries into the bigger EcoFlow batteries using a DC to DC transfer. So basically the portable power stations become an add-on to those batteries, which charges up the big EcoFlow batteries, which then feed into the house at some point in the future. So they are all used. The smaller battery that you see there, that's the, I think there's a 1 kilowatt one there, that goes back and forward between home and my wife's stables so that they've got power down at the stables because they're in an off-grid situation. We don't want to leave panels or anything out there because it's not near anywhere that, if people were to come in the middle of the night and take things away, you wouldn't know about it till the morning. So everything gets locked up in a container, but that's the battery we use down there. The one in the top left, that's the Delta 3. For those that joined the Q&A session that we did just a couple of days, or in fact a week ago today, we ran this entire setup, all the lights, the computers, the screens, the cameras and everything, all off of that EcoFlow battery. And for a whole hour's live stream, it used about 20% of the battery. Normally that battery I use when it's not being used to harvest energy from the mobile panels sits with my main computer plugged into that, so it doubles up as a UPS because that is the EcoFlow Delta 3 Plus, which the Plus has the UPS functionality built into it. And the A3 up there, that's my general go-to. If I need power somewhere, I throw it in the boot of the car, drive it around. So we use all of the batteries. But let's go back to the big batteries for a minute, because one of the things that I get asked a lot is, how do I size batteries? How do I know what's too much? Because honestly, if you buy too much, in my case, there's no such thing as too much, but if you've got too much, you've got too much capacity, you're really wasting your money. If you're not using them, you're not discharging the batteries down and filling them back up again, then you might just be wasting money just to have batteries sitting there doing nothing. So generally what I do is I look at, what am I using in the height of the summer and what am I using in the depths of the winter? So this is my batteries. This is the SolarEdge battery. So this is the big 3 batteries in the garage. This is my state of charge throughout the month of May. So you can see most days they were completely full all the day because it has been a glorious month when it comes to energy. And then, as you can see, what we were actually doing, and that's why you can see this kind of the same pattern at the top of every day, was at 6:30 in the evening, I was force discharging 10 kilowatts from those batteries. So that's what you see, that plunge goes down there. Plus whatever the house was using, but we generally averaged, we would take them down to about 60% state of charge. So that's May, June, probably something similar there. And we'll come on to what I'm going to do differently as we go into the summer in a minute. But that means that, during the summer, 60% of those batteries are hardly getting touched. But that's not a problem for me, because when I look at January, what you can see there is, certainly since we've had the heat pump installed, on the vast majority of days, we're bringing those batteries almost down to empty. And on some days, we are actually emptying the batteries. We're taking them all the way down. But on most days, we're down at around 15% by the time we get to the end of the day. And the way my SolarEdge batteries are set up is they will not go below 9%. Now, the whole usable capacity of the battery is available to me, so I can take it down to 0% because there's a hidden bit underneath. But the bottom 9% of the battery is always kept in case there's a power cut. So we have the backup interface that will cut us off from the grid and put us into island mode, but that obviously requires power to be able to power the house. So it stores a minimum of 9% of the battery, and it won't let you go into that 9% in case it needs it to power you in an off-grid situation. So you can see there are a few days where we got down below 10%, and actually just a couple of days where we took it all the way down to the bottom. So I think for my case, my batteries are sized for my needs. We do use an awful lot of electricity. I mean, these are just a few of the things that we have that use a lot of power. Since the stream last month, when I said I was thinking about getting a hot tub, well, we put a hot tub in. That uses about 6 kilowatt hours a day. Things like the air fryer. We use the air fryer because it's more energy efficient than using the oven. We have a hot water tap that it gives us instant boiling and chilled water. The heat pump, on a good day in the winter, we'll be pulling 3.5 kilowatts easily. We even have a bed that has a cooling grid on the mattress. So my wife and I are absolute polar opposites. She wants the bed to be at 1,000 degrees surface of the sun temperature, and I want it to be Arctic. So we can actually chill one side of the bed and heat the other side of the bed if we need to. But that does use power. So we're quite a high energy use house, and I'll come on and I'll show you my energy use in a moment as to what we actually use. But it means that all of these devices, they run from the batteries. They pull power from those batteries. And like you say, in this time of the year, without forced discharging, I think last night the batteries got down to about 91%. So we used 9% of the battery to run the house in the evening. But in the depths of winter, I'll use every last bit of it. And to sort of finish up this bit, I kind of believe that the more capacity you have in your batteries, you will grow into it. There's an old saying that, people say, if you get a pay rise, your standard of living goes up because you grow into your salary. I believe the exact same thing with batteries. If you've got more capacity, you start looking at it going, well, I could get a hot tub, and I could run it off of that, and it won't cost me anything. Or maybe that's just me. Okay, so before we go on to the next question, if you guys, if you've got questions about batteries, put them all into the comments, and I say when we get to the end of this, I'll dive into the comments and we'll start pulling those out. So the last sort of pre-prepared question that I wanted to give some thought to because I get an awful lot of comments, even on videos from back in December. People are still watching them and commenting on them, usually with heat pumps are a load of rubbish. What's going to happen when it blows up in 3 years' time? There's an awful lot of really vociferous anti-heat pump sort of propaganda out there. So I started doing a little bit of digging and started to try and understand, well, where is this all coming from? Now, my standing joke for anyone that's read any of the comments, and I think once a video has been out for about a month, the comments generally tend to get worse. So I wouldn't go back to some of those old videos. But I always used to joke, less Daily Mail, more actual research. Well, the reason a lot of this is coming out, and I'm picking on the Daily Mail here. If you just search for Daily Mail anti-heat pump articles, Google will return pages and pages and pages of them. And the vast majority of them are written by this guy, Mark Jewell. Now, I don't know who Mark Jewell is. He seems to have been a Daily Mail reporter for a large number of years. Apparently, he's very tall. I query the journalist. But he seems to write large amounts of articles that are just anti-heat pump. And I don't know why. But I started digging. So I found a report by something called the Skills Training Group. And the Skills Training Group look at the number of apprentices who are apprenticing in a particular trade. And what they found was that in the gas fitting trade, so people who can fit and service gas boilers, the number of people joining that trade has been declining at about 4.19% over the last 16 years. So it's been gradually going down. That's new people, young people entering the trade. The other thing that they point out is that the average age of a registered gas safe fitter, over 50% of them are over 55 years of age. So there's less and less people training to become gas fitters, and in the next 10 years, an awful lot of those are probably going to retire. So put yourself in the position of a gas engineer who's maybe 30 years of age, and you've spent probably a lot of time and effort getting qualified, and you want to, see a career ahead of you. And what you see is all of these heat pumps coming along, and you need to go and retrain if you want to go and install and service heat pumps. So right now, there's 150,000 qualified gas fitters in the UK. In 10 years' time, that number could be half that and declining year on year. So I think what we're seeing is a backlash from that industry. It's the gas industry, and that's everything from the gas producers, the people that, take the gas out of the ground and transport it and process it and make it available, all the way down to the boiler manufacturers, the people who train gas fitters, the people who certify gas fitters. All of them are seeing a crisis within their industry right now. They need to stop people leaving that industry. So there's an awful lot of nonsense being put around about heat pumps to try and convince people that you don't want to be getting a heat pump, you want to stay with gas. So they keep funding these articles because the Daily Mail doesn't write articles that nobody reads. So people are getting them to write articles. Obviously, they're putting adverts on their pages. They're obviously making money from this, so they're going to continue to do it. Now, all of that is just my opinion. Take it as read. It's just what I managed to find doing a little bit of research. But I think what you're seeing is these people are trying to prop up what is potentially a dying industry. Now, I don't think it's going to die tomorrow. I don't think it's going to die in the next 5 to 10 years. But I think long term, if I was in my mid-20s now and I was looking at, am I going to be able to make a career out of this, I'd probably be looking at retraining. Okay. We'll come back to Q&A in a few moments, but let me give you an update on how my Net Zero Challenge is going, how much money we've raised this month, and let's dig into some numbers. So if you're new here, what is the Net Zero Challenge? Well, I wanted to set myself a challenge for this year and also to be held accountable to it, because it's very easy to say, well, I'm going to do something, and then if you've not told anybody you're going to do it and it doesn't work out, you can kind of just forget that you ever said it. So my net zero challenge was to have a £0 energy bill for 2025. And like I said a moment ago, you saw all the things that we have in our house, a couple of electric vehicles. We are not living like hermits. So we are enjoying life. My wife and I spend the summer evenings in the hot tub. You know, we are using electricity, quite a lot of electricity. So the plan is to generate more than we use. Now that's not going to be possible the whole year long. So the way I'm going to set this challenge is I want to have a £0 energy bill on the 31st of December. So in January and February, I will obviously spend money on electricity. We will earn money back as we go through the month, but hopefully it all tallies up on the 31st of December. Any surplus that we generate will get donated to good causes. Now, to spice things up a little bit, also any money that I make from this YouTube channel in 2025 all goes into the pot as well. So we will have a pot of money, which I will be coming to all of you as we get towards the end of the year, asking for suggestions on what we will do with it. Because you are the biggest contributor to this pot. And I'll show you how in a moment. So the way we're going to do this is, obviously I am going to generate as much electricity as I possibly can. I'm going to use what I need to use, and I say I'm not going to baby it. I'm not going to sit there and think, well, if I do a little bit more and save a little bit more power, then we can get a few more pence. I'm going to live my life. I'm going to enjoy it, but we're going to store as much as we can. We're going to take it all, and we're going to make sure that we generate a lot of power. Now, I noticed in the comments earlier, at the beginning of this, Al McGee was saying that he just had a stonking May out in Ireland, and to be honest, we've had a phenomenal May here as well. So this is my graph from last year. This is 2024. Now, 2024 was a pretty rubbish summer, to be totally honest. But you'll see there, ignore the June bar, the dip in the middle. That was just because we took some panels offline to replace them with bigger panels. But yeah, we had a pretty rubbish year. And the reason I say that is because when we look at this year so far, so last year in the whole year we generated 5.4 megawatts. We've generated 3.3 and it's not even June yet. Well, when I took these numbers, we were just into the first day of June. So 3.3 megawatts, and in fact, the last 2 months, both April and May, we've generated over a megawatt in both of those months. So I compare that to 2024, and you can see why I say 2024 was just an awful year. So far this year, everything's looking good. It's a little bit grey and windy the first couple of days of June, but hopefully that will improve. But it's, this year's looking pretty good from a solar generation point of view. So how's your May been? Again, if you're willing to share numbers, by all means, pop them in the chat there. Did you manage to get over a megawatt? I was sitting there watching the numbers at the last day, and as soon as I saw the clouds rolling in, I'm like, shoot, go away. I need just a little bit more. But those last couple of days of May just pushed us way over. So, as I said, we need to have a zero energy bill on the 31st of December, and we'll donate the rest to good causes. So how can you participate? Well, you're already doing this. So last month, YouTube, so the one thing I've noticed with YouTube is in the winter when everyone's in the house, more people watch videos, so therefore we earn more from ad revenue. And as we get into the warmer months and everyone's outside and not watching as many videos, it tails off. But we still earn £288.93 from AdSense on the channel. Another 64p from Amazon. Thank you, Amazon, from click-through rates. But this is where you guys really made a difference. So ignore the buy me a coffee. I always said to people, I don't want people donating money to this thing. You do more than enough, trust me, by watching videos or using referral links. But if anyone does want to, there is a buy me a coffee link there as well. Now, Octopus have a very good scheme for referring people for heat pumps, solar panels, and for people who are not Octopus customers to come and join Octopus. So what I've been doing is taking all of the money from that and adding it to the pot as well. Now, we'll ignore the one in the middle in a minute because we'll come back to that. So just in May, we've had, what's that, £400 from heat pump referral. So that's 4 people that used my referral code with Octopus to get a heat pump installed. And we've had a couple of people use the referral code to join Octopus. So there's another £100 on top of that. So there's £500 straight away into the kitty. Now, the one in the middle is the interesting one. So sometime about a month ago, Octopus changed the way their referral program works. And it used to be, if you use my old referral code, which these people on the right-hand side there obviously did, they would immediately, as soon as that person used the referral code, would immediately credit me with £100. They changed that because obviously they were crediting people with £100 and some people weren't going through with their heat pump installs. So they changed the whole program about a month ago. So if you use the code now, I only get the £100 once you've had the heat pump installed. Basically, once you've paid your bill after having the heat pump installed. But if you look at the last line of that email in the middle there, so far 13 people have used that referral code and none of them have been successful yet. It's only about a month and some people's installs are like 3 or 4 months out in advance. But if that keeps incrementing up like that, there's £1,300 sitting there that will go into the pot. As soon as that money gets released, will go into the pot. So yeah, you guys are doing fantastic. So in May, you guys contributed £400 from heat pump referrals, £100 from people switching to Octopus, nothing from Buy Me a Coffee, 64p from Amazon affiliates, and £288.93 from YouTube ads. And as I said at the beginning of all of this, obviously I have to pay tax on this because I have a normal job as well. I don't do this for a living, but I will cover the tax. So again, none of that's going to get deducted. It will all go to good causes. But there is a caveat that if all of a sudden this spikes and we start getting lots of money in, I will cover the tax up to the first £10,000. That's on advice of a couple of people on the channel. My tax accountant, who said absolutely you should put some limit on it, and would also keep my wife very happy. So big thank you to Richard, to Nicholas, Ashley, Jez, Adam. All of you used referral codes and were happy to share your names. There were a couple of others. When you put in the referral code, it does give you the option to be anonymous. So there were a couple of anonymous ones in there as well. And to everybody else for watching videos and contributing to this, thank you very much. It's greatly appreciated. If you do want to contribute, those are my referral codes. You can scan that QR code. I will pop it up on the screen in a little while. That will take you to what's called a link tree, and that has everything in there, all of those referral codes, so you don't need to write any of it down. Okay, so you guys contributed £789.03 this month. So when we add that to our grand total, we're already at £3,592.70. That's amazing. I honestly had no clue that we would get a fifth of that amount of money. And we're not even halfway through the year yet. So huge thank you to everybody. Please, please, please keep doing what you're doing. Okay, so let's look at so that's the money that you guys have generated. Now, going back to the challenge, what did I use and how much did we export? So we imported 969.148 kilowatt hours. So we imported almost a megawatt. That cost me £84.52. Now, if you look at the bottom there, we used 49% more power in May than we did in April. So how did that happen? Well, the main reason was, a couple of months ago I put out a video about battery charging strategies. And there were basically 3 strategies. There was just charge your batteries up with solar, use what you need to use, leave them charged up, then top them up in the cheap rate at night. The second strategy was force discharge your batteries and fill them all the way back up again. And the third strategy was don't import energy from the grid at all, just use solar. I thought, rather than just do one, I'm going to do all 3. So in May, I was force discharging my batteries. So every evening, I would discharge about 10 kilowatt hours on top of what we'd already exported that day. So you'll see in a moment when we get onto the export figures. But that meant I had to buy in that 10 kilowatt hole in my battery needed to be filled up again. So that night I was importing 10 kilowatts. So every single night for 31 days, we imported an extra 10 kilowatts that we really didn't need to. So hence the reason the number has gone up. But the actual amount spent hasn't changed a great deal. We'll come back to that in a minute. So again, we spent £84.52 on electricity. We exported 1.126 megawatt hours. So that was Octopus are going to give me £169 for that. So although we imported £84.52, we actually got a credit of £169 for all of that. And we actually exported 16.5% more than we did in April. So again, some of that is down to the forced discharging of the battery, but yeah, I think that's a pretty good month where we've exported 1.12 megawatt hours of electricity. So as I mentioned, the battery strategy. So in May, I've been force exporting the battery. As of the 1st of June, I'm not force exporting my battery. So I want to, at the end of the 3 months, I want to be able to compare the three strategies and see, do they make any difference? Do the numbers all roughly come out the same? So for June, I'm just going to be filling just topping up the batteries from the sort of 8 or 9% that we might use in the evening. Doesn't cost a great deal, but we'll see what difference that makes next month, and I'll do a comparison between the two. And then when we get into July, I'm not going to import energy from the grid to top up my batteries. So what I will do is charge my batteries from solar during the day. I'll use a little bit at night time to run the house, and then the next morning I will top them up again before we start exporting. And I will be able to compare these three different strategies with roughly equal months. So May, June and July, I'm kind of hoping, from a radiance from the sun perspective, that it will kind of be even. And probably the best 3 months to try that strategy out. And hopefully at the end of it, there'll be a clear winner and we can say, that's definitely the best way to do it, or the way if you want to make more money. So gas, I still haven't got rid of my gas, and unfortunately the shares that I was planning to sell to buy a new kitchen this year aren't worth anything like what they were when I was planning this at the beginning of the year. So thank you, Mr. Trump, for totally ruining the stock market. So that might take me a few more months before I can do that, but my gas bill's negligible, £12 a month. 75% of that is the standing charge. Yeah, I'm not going to worry about £12 a month for now. So I don't know what it says in March. In May, we used, £84 of electricity we brought in. We imported £12.79 of gas. We exported £169, and we got £100 of free electricity. Now, I'm going to jump back a few slides because there's something on one of these slides that I want to show you. If you look on the right-hand side there, if you look down, the third one down on the right-hand side, it says customer service gesture, £100. Octopus gave me £100. I don't know why. When I asked them, they didn't know why. They just said somebody with the right level of approvals added £100 to my account. I don't know why. Thank you very much, Octopus. So there's £100 extra that is going in the pot this month. So the total for my electricity bill this month is minus £171.69, including that £100. So we'd have been about, about a £71 credit, plus an extra £100. So that means when we look at the net zero energy bill for the year, we're already in credit. So we've wiped out what we spent in January and February. March, we were only about a tenner over, £72 over. If we'd taken that £100 off, we'd have been about the same as April. So we'd have made about the same amount of money, about £70 on top of obviously paying the energy bill. But we are now at £57.37 in credit. So looking at January and February, I'm assuming that November, December will probably be similar kinds of money. So we need to be at least £200 up come the end of October going into the winter to hit the net zero target. I think it's eminently doable. I really do think it's going to work out. Okay, so that's it for this month's update. I know I've flown through those numbers, and I've had a number of requests from people. Can I do a bigger deep dive into the numbers? What used what? I know there are Tim from Tim and Cat's Greenwalk. Tim does a fantastic job with the spreadsheets and the graphs and everything. I'm probably not going to be able to do as good a job as Tim does with that, but I am going to produce 3 separate videos this month. One will be a deep dive into the solar numbers. So again, we can start to sort of see how it's performing. There'll be one on an update on the fence-mounted solar panels. So they have just gone through the full year. So for those that have been watching the channel for a while, I put those panels on the fence last May. And I've been recording the data for the whole year, and I've now got a full year's worth of stats. So there'll be a video coming up probably within a week, maybe 10 days, where we'll look at that whole project and see whether it's been worthwhile. And I'll give you an update on the heat pump and all the usage numbers for that as well. So for the data geeks, stand by, because there's more coming. Okay, let me jump across to this screen here. And let me have a scroll back through and see what you guys have been saying in the chat. So Robin is asking, how many kilowatt hours do you pull from the grid in a year? Good question. Right now, I'm running at about a megawatt hour per month. So if that continues, 12 megawatt hours. Now, it is a lot of power. I was going to say it sounds like a lot of power. It is an enormous amount of power. But don't forget, a lot of that is brought in to charge our batteries, because we have a large battery bank, so we charge those batteries up. That means that my average cost per unit of energy throughout the entire year is about 7.1 pence per kilowatt hour. So by having a large battery bank and pulling in all that power and then using it from the batteries throughout the year, we can keep that cost per unit down to almost 7p. That might go down a little bit once we get into July. Once I bring in that third strategy for the batteries, where I'm not going to be grid charging the batteries, that number should go down significantly, because I'm pulling in at some points 15, maybe 20 kilowatt hours a night to charge those batteries. So we'll see. We'll see what happens in July. But yeah, I think probably 10 to 12 megawatt hours is my guess. We'll check that at the end of the year. So Alex, I avoid discussing EVs. Yeah. So it's interesting. It goes very cyclical. So back in, God, what year was it now? 2012, when we got our first EV. It was a bright blue Nissan Leaf. And for those of you that know what the old Nissan Leafs looked like, it stood out. It stood out like a sore thumb. And lots of people were interested because they'd never seen a pure electric car before, and wanted to know about it. And people were very positive. And then a couple of years later, we got the Tesla Model S. And again, once the initial, I've never heard of Tesla, who are they, it's brand new, had gone away, the hating on EVs started and became very vociferous for a number of years. I have noticed it's kind of gone away. You're still going to get the die-hard petrol heads. And I, like you, I just don't talk to them. I've had a number of people come up to me because I drive a Tesla Model Y, and just start yelling at me about how could I drive a Tesla? Elon Musk is this, and I was like, just whoa! I didn't ask for your opinion, but people feel that because I drive a Tesla somehow that I agree with everything he says, which I absolutely do not. But it is just one of those things. There are people who have very entrenched opinions, and they love nothing more than to impose their opinions on you. If people want to know about EVs, or they want to know about my heat pump, I'm more than happy to share that information. But the only place I go shouting about it is here on YouTube. I don't go and get out a soapbox and go and stand in the corner of the park and try and convince the world to get a heat pump or an EV. But my answer to everybody is everyone is entitled to their opinions. Everyone has the right to voice those opinions. But what you can't expect is to start voicing misinformation and expect that nobody will challenge you on it. So if you're spreading false information, knowingly or unknowingly, don't be surprised if somebody says, that's wrong and I need to correct you. Okay, I'm going to get off that soapbox. Jax, I agree with you. 2024 was just a washout year. I was complaining about, we took a whole month. My installer took a whole month to get my panels replaced on the roof. So we had a whole month in June without about 4 kilowatts of our panels. No great loss, to be totally honest, because it was a pretty rubbish month. But all indications, like you say, the last 3 months, March, April, May, have just absolutely smashed 2024. In April and May, we have generated more power than we generated in the biggest month in 2024. I think ours was August. That was only because, like I say, June was offline. So yeah, absolutely smashed it. It's been great, and long may it continue into my summer holidays. Chris, 1.4 megawatts here. Yeah, God, here we go. Everyone's having the megawatt month. Let's see. I'm going to put Alex on the screen because Alex, you missed it. 951. I think we'll round that up. 951. That rounds up to 1. So yeah, megawatt month. Oh my word. Hang on. There we go. And 700. From a 5.5 kilowatt system, that's pretty impressive. Now, when you say east-west facing, are you true east-west? So I always refer to mine as east-west, and it's really sort of northeast, southwest too. But still, from a 5.5 kilowatt system, that's amazing. Let me make a bit of space here. Okay, now I'm having envy. 3.1. Sorry, I was reading that as 3.9 megawatts. I thought you'd done 3.9 megawatts in 1 month. I was about to say, have you got the field behind me or something? I was talking to the local farmer the other day. So the field behind me, the farmer's quite old and is looking to retire. He was actually looking to sell the field to a developer, and the developer was trying to get plans to build houses on it. And unfortunately, as we pointed out to the planning people, the field does flood. We're in the fens. I think I'm 60, 70 miles from the coast and 9 meters above sea level. So when it rains, the field floods. So they wouldn't let them build houses on it. But my first thought was, well, if he's looking to retire, could I get the field and put a megawatt solar array on it? Unfortunately, it's in Greenbelt, so my chances of getting planning permission to do that are 0. You can build houses in Greenbelt, but apparently not put solar panels on it. Yeah, Stephen's saying my April this year. yeah, 2024, one to just write off. Alex, 9.51, yeah. 3.8, that, yeah. Nearly 4 megawatts, and we're not even halfway through the year. So this actually brings up a question. So do you pay a token monthly direct debit? Yes, I do. I actually pay in £50 a month. So I know some people, you can go onto the Octopus website and you can say, £1. I don't. I actually pay in £50 a month. And there's a couple of reasons for that. One makes sense, and one, I now do it because of talking to a financial advisor. So one of the things that if you want to maintain a credit score is you want to be paying monthly bills. and this is one of the bills that it goes towards your credit score. So I pay in £50 a month. Now, what you'll see is you won't see it show up in that the numbers, because what I do is I use that. I have something called an Electroverse card. Now, if you're an Octopus customer, you really should have one of these. There's an app. You can sign up for it. It's free. They'll send you a card, but it means that if you're out and about and you've got an electric vehicle, if you're out and about and you've got an electric vehicle, you can just go to like a Shell charger or an Ionity or BP Pulse, tap the card, start charging, and it will just get credited to your electricity bill. So as to not skew the numbers, I put £50 in, and then I use that when I'm out and about, and I use public charging so that it comes out of that £50. Then at the end of the month, I take what's left of that £50 back out, so it keeps the balance straight. Otherwise, I'd never be able to account for any of it. So yeah, obviously, if you're not doing silly things like me here, you can actually reduce your direct debit on the website. And I know a couple of people. I don't think you can put it to zero, but I think a few people have put it to like £1 or 50p or something like that. You would think Octopus would look at it and say, look, we're paying you. You don't need to be paying in by direct debit, but I haven't found a way to do that yet. So yeah, I pay £50 in and I use it up when I'm out public charging. Usually 2 to 3 public charges a month while I'm out driving. Sir Rob, I have a request rather than a question, but you already answered it. Looking forward to the monthly update. Yeah, so a few people have been in touch and asked about this. I'm not a spreadsheet jockey, so yeah, I will certainly do a more detailed monthly update and give you the numbers, and then yeah, we'll do that certainly within the next couple of weeks. But it's coming. It's on the list. Where are we? Yeah, I can't disagree with this. So I think it's happened to me 3 times now. Twice, just in a public car park, somebody's come up to me and started yelling at me. One person approached me while I was actually at the Tesla dealership. They were protesting out the front of a UK Tesla dealership. And the manager came out and said, if you don't leave, I'm going to call the press. And, everyone went, do it. Yeah, get our pictures in the paper. But somebody asked me, why was I supporting Tesla? So as I say, I've had a Tesla car now for 12 years. In fact, my Model S was about the 50th car into the country. So really, really early days. And they've been faultless. I've had no problems with them whatsoever. My Model S, I probably shouldn't say this after I gave it back to Tesla, I never serviced it. It never had a single service in 10 years. It only had one problem that Tesla covered under the warranty. The cars are extremely good from a software point of view. They just get better and better and better. And they are just so easy to drive. Like I said, my parents live right down in Dorset. So when I go to see my parents, I get on the motorway, I put the autopilot on. Now, autopilot here is not quite the autopilot that you would get in the US, but for motorway driving, it will drive 230, 240 miles of the 250-mile journey on its own. Absolutely just rock solid. Now, the question is, would I buy another one? Right this moment in time, probably not. I have no intentions of selling the one I've got, but I would struggle to hand over more money at this moment in time. Anyway, that we're straying into politics there, so let me get off that one. I have a 5 kilowatt inverter. Yeah, so this is something that comes up a lot. Is inverter envy. I had the same. I actually had 2 inverters. By the way, if anybody wants a 3.6 kilowatt or a 2 kilowatt solar edge inverter, I have both of them. They're sitting in my garage gathering dust. I have absolutely no use for them. You're more than welcome to them. So if anybody wants a backup for one that they've got, they both worked. We just decommissioned them when we put the 10 kilowatt inverter in. So if you want them, reach out to me. We'll figure out how to get them to you. But yeah, it was the wish when I put it in. I was like, I really need the bigger inverter. We finally got around to doing it and put in a 10. I'm now looking at the ones that they announced at the solar convention that was in Munich a few weeks ago, and saying I should have got a 15. So yeah, you're always going to look at hindsight's 2020 vision. You're always going to say, I wish I'd got a bigger one. At the time, you just put in the biggest one you can afford. But yeah, I'd have liked a 15 now. Well, so this is an interesting one. So hopefully most countries will catch up with Norway with new EVs. Norway is almost 100% of new cars. If it's not 100% now, it's 99 or something percent of new cars are EVs. The main reason was, now I've spent an awful lot of my life in different bits of Norway, and the main reason is the Norwegian government used to have insane import taxes on cars. In some cases, a friend of mine imported a BMW 5 Series, and it was a 200% import tax. So you pay the price of the car, and then you pay twice that again in tax. So importing cars into Norway was phenomenally expensive. And when EVs started to become a thing, there was no import tax on them. Now, I don't know if there still is today. I don't think there is. But this was why people in Norway, every single taxi became a Tesla overnight. There were superchargers, length and breadth of the country. Norway's way of making the country go to EV was just to not tax the EVs. So you can still have a petrol car, by all means. You can bring one in, pay the taxes on it. But that's the way you get people to buy EVs. And obviously, Norway being a very, very big country, if you look at it on a map and it sort of looks this big. Somebody said to me the other day, if you were to take Norway and fold it around Oslo, so Oslo stays where it was, you take top of the country and you fold it down, you'd be in Rome. That's the kind of distances we're talking about. So to drive all over that in an EV, you need charging stations everywhere. And the government basically opened up the whole network to put as many chargers in as they possibly could. Dave's asking, are we getting an update on... So, yeah, sorry, for those that missed it. So Dave's previous comment was join the stream late. So yes, Dave, the solar fence update, I will probably film it in the next couple of days. So if I can get it out before the weekend, I will. If not, then certainly early next week, I will give you all an update on my solar fence project. And the results of that will dictate as to what we do next from a solar, should we say, a non-permanent solar installation. And so now I have a 5 kilowatt inverter. Yeah. That's the problem. So one thing I always say to people these days, if you look at all of the new battery systems that are coming on the market, the new SolarEdge batteries that I talked about a moment ago that have just been announced, they're all modular. They're all these sort of stackable. They literally are like Lego bricks. They have the connectors on the top. You lift the inverter off, you plonk another battery on, you stick the inverter back on the top, and it's all in one nice modular stack, which means you don't have as many space problems as you would. And obviously the battery modules are getting smaller. Those 3 big SolarEdge batteries that I showed you earlier, I mean, they're only 9 kilowatts each, but they're enormous, and they weigh, I think they're 120 kilos each. I remember watching the guys trying to get them into my garage. There's hernias all around. But yeah, it is always a problem. Obviously, you can only install whatever space you've got. The other thing I'm starting to notice, when I install those, although those batteries are rated to be installed outside, they don't have heaters in the pack. So that means if the temperature drops below freezing, there's no way to heat the batteries up, so you get less performance out of them. A lot of the modern battery packs, the SIG Energy, the new Solar Edge, these are all designed to live outside, and they've also got battery heating and cooling in the packs. So again, doesn't matter if you get a hot sunny day or a very, very cold winter's night, they're fine to be installed outside. I have a 400. Yeah, I'm assuming you did about 640. I'm assuming that's kilowatts, because if you only did 645 watts, there's something very wrong with your system. But yeah, 645 kilowatts from a 445 watt panel, 6 front, 6 back. Yeah, I think it's perform. So this is the thing. Your first year with solar, you're gonna obsess over those numbers, but you need something to compare them to. And although we all share our numbers, I did this. What my house does and what your house does, even if we have exactly the same system with they're not going to be comparable. So what you'll find is the first year you'll probably be sitting watching those numbers. I have the app open on my phone and I'm constantly, how much have we done today? The second year, you check it a couple of times a day. The third year, once a day, once every couple of days. And then after that, you just think, I'm just making money. I'm just going to let it go. So it sounds good. Yeah, I'm hoping that's kilowatts, not French panels is intriguing. How does it interface to the grid? So this is something that is strictly not allowed in the UK. It's called a balcony solar system. Now, so EcoFlow make these little micro inverters, a little 800 watt inverter. And we can take a couple of strings of solar in. So at the moment, I've got 4 200 watt panels. They're actually 10-year-old panels that came off my roof. They've been up there for 10 years. They still work, and I didn't want to throw them away. So they're mounted on the fence. If you want more details, there are a couple of videos on the channel, and as I say, there will be an update video. But they connect through the EcoFlow microinverter. Now, when I got it, the way you got the power from the inverter into the grid wasn't through all the normal routes into your fuse box. Was you stick a plug in the wall, and it would send the power the other way down the cable through the plug into the wall. Now, it's perfectly safe. You can pull that thing out when it's live and touch the pins, and there's no power. So it's got all the safety mechanisms in it. But in the UK, we're not strictly allowed to flow power back through standard UK plugs. Now, I'm sure the electricians out there will tell you all the reasons why. I don't know. All I can tell you is it absolutely works, because I ran it like that for over a year. Then I got an email from somebody at EcoFlow that said, we noticed you bought one of our things a year ago. We've just been told by the electrician standards people that we're not allowed to use plugs in the UK. So can you please cut the end off and have the cables wired into a fused spur? I may or may not have done that. More to come on that. With the old feed-in tariffs, how did you? I see. So you're still at 3.6 kilowatts on the inverter, right? Okay. So for those that don't know, so 3.68 kilowatts is the magic number. This is the number that somebody decided that if you had that or less, you don't need to do a G99 approval. You do something called a G98. And G98, think of it like planning permission. It's retrospective. So you can install your solar system. You don't need anybody's permission to do it. Then once you're done, you submit a retrospective G98. And it's just paperwork. You just file it. But then you are limited to the amount you can export to the grid at any one time at 3.68 kilowatt hours. Doesn't matter how much batteries you put behind your inverter. So long as your inverter size is 3.68 kilowatts, you don't need to do a G99. As soon as you go above that, you get into the whole G99 approval. Honestly, and I can only speak for UK Power Networks, who are my local DNO, G99 approval with those guys is the simplest thing. It is literally a 2-page document. What are you installing? Make, model, serial number, all that kind of information, so they know exactly what equipment is on premise. What export limit are you asking for? What size is the inverter? All the rest of it. Sent it off, 48 hours later, approved. 10 kilowatt export limit. approved. There you go. Thank you very much. Now, was that a one-off? I have absolutely no idea. But don't be frightened off by having to do a G99. Now, I have heard horror stories for people in other parts of the country who have different DNOs, that some DNOs are certainly not as good as UK Power Networks, but it's well worth doing if you want to put a bigger inverter in. I check mine every single day for the last 12 years. So yeah, we've had our... this is one of these things. When you can't check it, it doesn't bother you. So back in 2010, when we had our FIT system installed, we had a Fronius, I think the Fronius, a German inverter. There was no apps, there were no websites, there were no nothing. The thing didn't connect to the internet at all. It was just a simple 2 kilowatt inverter that sat up in the attic. But it had a display on the front of the inverter, which meant if I wanted to check it, I had to climb the ladder up into the loft and then kind of gaze across at this orange display. But it did then, they did sell me, upsell me, a remote display for it that was just basically exactly the same display as the one that was on the front of it, just in a little battery powered box, for I think for about an extra £300, that showed me how much the inverter was using. That thing lasted about a year. It packed up. They wanted another £300. I told them no. So for about 9 years, I never looked at it. I just looked at my electricity bill at the end of the month to see what the numbers were. As soon as I got an app, I was looking at it every 5 minutes. So it's not always a good thing. Yeah, days I may or may not have done that too. I'm assuming you're referring to the micro inverter, and actually they've got a new model that's just come out. I don't know if it's available in the UK yet, but the new model and a new battery system and all sorts. But you know, it works perfectly. I have the micro inverter, 4 panels connected to it. I have 2 3.6 kilowatt batteries connected to it, and it has been faultless. Absolute. It's been more reliable than my SolarEdge system. Okay, we need to start a support group because some of us have got problems. Yeah, I was literally thinking about this today. So there'll be a video at some point in the next few weeks. So I bought a new. For those of you that probably know, I like my Shelly devices. Shelly have these little in-wall displays where it'll fit into a standard light socket fitting. I've got the small one sitting in a box over there that I just started playing with, and it works with Home Assistant. Now, Home Assistant is that rabbit hole that I fell down a couple of years ago, but it allows me to put this display on the wall, have it control lights and things. So you can basically build a dashboard and you can put it on a display on the wall, and it can also, as a relay, and so it can actually control real lights as well. But what I can do is I can put the basic controls on it that the family would want to use, and then you can just swipe right and I can have all sorts of solar charging, Powerwall, what do they call it? The Tesla Powerwall view. So yeah, I might be doing something like that as well. So I heard about the Owl. I never actually knew anybody that had one. If I remember right, this is the one that actually clamps over the energy meter and reads the pulse of the little red LED. Is that the Owl? Back in, I say, 2010 to 2013, there wasn't an awful lot of options to do this kind of monitoring. Oops. Hey, Robin. Yeah, apologies. We're running. In fact, we've run over the hour. We're probably going to wrap up in the next couple of minutes. But great to see you. Home Assistant is the holy grail. Yeah, it's a religion. There's no other way to describe it. If you're a tinkerer, one of the things with Home Assistant is it looks incredibly complex. It looks like something that only computer programmers are going to be interested into. But it is that rabbit hole with an ever steepening drop into the hole. So you can you can buy an appliance. I have a little what's called a Home Assistant Green, which is a little computer. I think it costs about £99. It runs the entire ecosystem. It works with everything in my house, and you can just drag and drop things and make them work together. And then as you get more confident, you can get a bit further down that steep hole before you fall right into the rabbit hole. But if you if you're interested in Home Assistant, then let me know. Happy to do some more videos on it. But if you do want to get into Home Assistant, there is actually a much better channel. So there's a guy here in the UK. He's got a channel called Speak to the Geek. He's my go-to person for Home Assistant. So if you want to know more, head over there. Another Home Assistant user. Yep. It is something that, again, it looks a little daunting, but don't be frightened by it. If you want to know more about the Home Assistant Green, just reach out to me. Happy to let you know. One of the nice things about living here in Cambridge is we have Raspberry Pi, which is what a lot of this is based on. The computers were founded here, and in the shopping centre in Cambridge, there's actually a Raspberry Pi store. So you can actually walk in and buy one of these off the shelf if you want to, but you can just order them online. You should get your heat pump. So I have my heat pump set up through the Daikin API in Home Assistant. The ESPL Therma, I've looked at it. It doesn't look too daunting to take the covers off and plug it in. I'm just worried. I'm still in the warranty period, and if I were to break anything, would they honour the warranty? So probably a future project. Okay, I'm going to make this one the last one. Try building a powered... no. We're not going down that route. So yeah, I've been in IT for a number of years. Power BI, know it well, hate it with a passion. Therefore, as I'm getting closer to my retirement years, I want to purge Power BI from my memory. So yeah, I can build dashboards in Home Assistant. They will do whatever I want. But no, not doing Power BI. And last one for today. Is it actually cheaper to run your heat pump 24/7 on IOG? Absolutely. So leaving aside the solar, so my heat pump costs me nothing to run. It does the amount of energy it will use in a whole year. I will generate more than that. But leaving aside the solar and batteries, if you're going to run it on Intelligent Octopus Go, you really need batteries. And the reason is that during the winter, the heat pump will be on pretty much all day. On the coldest days of the winter, ours ran somewhere around about 30 kilowatt hours of energy for the whole day. So you want as much of that in batteries as you can at 7p a kilowatt to feed the heat pump, and then only drop back to more expensive energy once your batteries are exhausted. I think if you compared January to January, they're probably pretty similar cost. If you don't have batteries, it's going to be a pretty similar cost to gas. I've got a full video that shows, and in fact, the May update will be coming in a couple of weeks that will show the running costs for the first half of the year. Gas just doesn't come close. Just absolutely does not come close. And this myth that's going around that you need a coefficient of performance of at least 4, otherwise gas is cheaper, is just nonsense. Just absolute nonsense. Okay, I am afraid I've just seen a comment there about Power BI. I'm not even going to look at that. All I'm going to say is thank you very much for joining me. I hope this has been useful. It's been a really great conversation, and I've loved spending the last sort of hour and 10 minutes with you all. We will do this more regularly. I will set up another one for some time in the middle of the month, and hopefully I will see you there. Thanks, everybody. Have a great evening. Take care. Bye-bye.